All right, everybody, what is going on? Thank you so much for coming along to the ride. We are just kind of getting set up here, and yeah, I had a hot mic there through the countdown because my shotgun microphone, which is sitting here on my desk, was on from a meeting that I had earlier on in the week. So, all right, I can hear myself on the monitor, so hopefully that means that you can hear me just fine. Good times, great oldies. Thank you for coming along for the ride, as always. I'm streaming in 3 places. If you want to be on my screen and join in the chat, head on over to my original channel on YouTube, which is Jono Canute, JONOKNEWT. And Jono Canute is where that's the majority of where most of the chat happens. But once I figure out how to integrate my Keystone Networks channel, which is also live, which I have now created a proper stream key for, so it won't just be a generic, Keystone is live page, but it will actually, I'll upload the thumbnail to it prior to launch and all that sort of good stuff. So I've got Keystone Live open here on my main screen that's next to my vMix Social, so I can push stuff from the Jono Canute channel to the screen. I can also read the comments that are happening over at Keystone. But then I also have the studio opened up on a 4th monitor that I have above my rig, which runs on a separate machine altogether. And so that one is monitoring things over at Jono Canute on YouTube as well. And then finally, if you really don't like YouTube, you could join us over on Twitch. I'm actually over on Twitch, I believe also as Jono Canute, but you'll have to look me up from over there and see what's going on. All right, so we've got some apparently a gating issue. Yeah, it's possible. I can share this actually. So let me toss this up here and we can navigate this together. So I'm not actually listening to my show here, but I could solo this, I guess. Let me change something here. Listen out of here as this might really screw things up. We'll find out in a second. Okay. Yeah, so you can see here the gate. It's still not coming through my ears, so I'm not going to solo. So you can see here the gate does open, but purely just to kill the background noise. Now, it may be a little aggressive. So, and maybe it doesn't need to close that quickly. I don't know. I'll have to listen to the show because it's not going to come through my because it's not going to come through my headphones, evidently. I'm going to change this back to computer, which is supposed to be this one. Okay, so, and I seem to be lower, which is a little strange because nothing has changed on this microphone. vMix is slightly lower, so I guess I could put that all the way to 100. But it shouldn't make too much difference as to how it sounds. But anyways, you can see the gate opening and closing real quick. Let me listen to this on my phone. I'll just listen to the latest couple seconds here and see what we hear. Yeah, okay, so other than I think vMix is trying to auto mix me, maybe that's what's causing the issue. It's here, I think it's not auto gain, but it's trying to auto mix my microphone, which I'm not crazy about. I don't know, it sounds pretty good on my phone, but that's a really bad speaker to compare things to, so you'll have to give me something in way of how you think it's sounding, and we can adjust things as needed. I'm going to put this over here. Come on now. There we go. All right. Let me know, Randy, in the comments. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me over on the Keystone site. Appreciate that. I'm going to just also jump into... Oh. Burnt. That post is crap. I posted it on LinkedIn, but it does not look good. Let's try that again. Create an event. Let's do that. We're going to upload the we're going to upload our thing here. Online, external link. Event name is going live today at 10 a.m., right? That's when we went live. Please check your ending time. The date you entered has already begun. Yeah, I know. Speakers, John. Please check the dates and times. I did. I mean, I know we're already underway. That's the way it goes. All right. So let's say 10:07. Next. Post. All right. Let's start with that. And there we go. Not now. All right, let me look at that post because I just put that up on LinkedIn. I'm trying to work LinkedIn a little bit, you know, trying to keep people in the loop as to what it is that I'm doing. Post this as John, repost. Okay, done. So that's good. That's at least up there now. So if you are traveling around on LinkedIn, you might see me over there. You know, good times. Alrighty, back to the live stream. Hey, when you lean back from the mic or turn off access, the gate closes a little bit quick. Yeah, it's a pretty aggressive gate, which is forcing me to stay up on it. But you're right, it probably does close a little fast, so let's see here. I mean, I need it to... Oh. It closes, so I need to up the release time, eh? How about that? That's a much slower... I can show you. It's a much slower release. So maybe that... although when I am away from this microphone, it does make a big difference. Like being up on the mic itself is really the sweet spot of this microphone, is to really be close to it. If you lean back or you talk away from it, and you're absolutely right, by the way, Randy, if you lean back or talk slightly away from it, then it doesn't behave as you expect it to. So actually, it does exactly what you expect it to, which is you can't hear it very clearly. So it does force you to have good habits. I don't have my own voice in my ears because I find it distracting to listen to that, and it's slightly delayed because of vMix processing, but whatever. I do have my my holiday mug here. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. It's coming up very quick, so if you haven't started your shopping yet, I strongly advise you get after that because it's going to happen faster than you think it will. All right, so what are we doing today? Well, I thought it might be fun just to shoot a quick little video this morning and share it with you guys here on the show as to the progress of the garage. Now, I am currently waiting to hear back from my builder because they're supposed to come this week and put the roof on the barn. And it was supposed to be yesterday or today, and I haven't heard from him at all. So I've been kind of hounding him, and he, I called him right at, I don't know, like 8:50. I called him at 8 o'clock, and no, he didn't pick up. Then I called him at 8:50, and he sent me a text and said, hey, I'll call you back. So that's fine. I assume he's trying to call around and find somebody to finish this job. But he may call me during this show. And I halfway thought, well, maybe I should, tell him that I'm going to be unavailable. But quite frankly, I don't really want to tell him I'm unavailable. I will take the call even if I'm live. And we can. I'm more interested in getting this building done than I am worrying about it disrupting any sort of live stream that I got going on. Hey, speaking of live streams, I also noticed that Bird Dog did their live stream this morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. I thought that was interesting because normally they are Tuesdays, right? They're Tuesdays at various times, but they did a live show this morning, and I don't know if it's still going on or not, but all good. We will, we'll see if it ever comes through. Oh, look who it is. What's going on? It's Mr. Lemansky. What is going on, my friend? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping on by. Always appreciate that. Good times. My wife and I are in the process of hopefully finishing building this garage this week. Who knows if it will actually get done? It's like the last 90%, or not the last 90, the last 10% of a full project seems to be the hardest. Although this entire build has been kind of messed up because I didn't know that when I signed up with the company I was going to be the project manager. I was hoping that the project manager at the company was going to be the project manager. But because it's not a very complicated build, it kind of is like, we'll get to it when we get to it. So anytime there's been a screw up or a parts delivery issue or anything like that, it's basically been on me to make sure that it gets rectified. And I wish I had just kind of taken that, hindsight is always clearer. We definitely have needed to manage this project on our own. And now that I know that, I'm hounding these guys to get this all done. But the next steps are to install electrical and to install lighting and then plugs. So the main electrical from the house, 100 amps, from the house main breaker over to the garage is the next thing. And the way to do that is to put gauge 1 wire, aluminum wire, from the house through a conduit to the garage. Now, I've actually completed the conduit. I did that last week. It's not the prettiest thing, but it's the first time I've ever done it. So we'll talk about that when we take a quick little look at a video that I shot. But everything's waiting now for the cable to arrive, which was shipped today. So I ordered the actual cable, which is about 25 feet of 3 different wires. I've conveniently been able to get them to be color-coded red, black, and white, as you would. If you know anything about electrical, you know why I did that. And then the ground for a second garage, a detached structure, has to be separately grounded from the rest of the house. So somewhere in my side yard, there are 2 8-foot copper pipes that are pounded into the ground, and the panel is grounded to those 2 pipes. Well, I need 2 separate ones, basically per outbuilding. And so you can't ground them together. They have to be separately grounded. So those copper pipes are outside in my garage. I have a tool that I borrowed last Sunday, which I need to probably do something with here this week to get those rods into the ground to ground the panel. And then I have 50 feet of bare copper wire to actually ground that panel. So 8 gauge. So it's coming along, but I'm basically doing most of it myself, which has been a good education in finding out Tennessee electrical code. But the wiring that I got is good for amperage up to 135 amps, and it's dual pole, so you have basically 2 hot lines and then a white that comes across from the the neutral from the house panel. So what's strange is, generally in electrical, a lot of people tie their grounds and their neutrals together because that's basically what people do. And a lot of people do that inside their house, which isn't the greatest practice, but to each his own. And various electrical codes around the country will let you do whatever. So people tie their grounds and their neutrals together. Whereas the actual rule is I can take my neutrals back to the house. I can't take my ground back to the house. And so I've got to have a separate grounding system for this subpanel, which is just fine because my house is an 80 amp subpanel, basically. So there's a panel in Tennessee. They put a panel outside because it doesn't get very cold, extremely cold, like it would in Michigan. And so the main panel's outside. Well, that's 200 amp service outside. Then I have an 80 amp service inside the house. And the panel that I bought is a 100 amp service that goes inside the garage, which is hilarious that there's more amperage in the secondary structure than there is in the whole of the residency. But depending on what you plan to do in the garage, and I'm going to have a few big amperage draws, not a welder, but I do have a 250 volt space heater that is a serious construction site space heater, and yeah, it's a serious deal. So there's going to be a lot of amperage that I'm going to need out there. Plus, I want my rig to be basically on its own 15, 20 amp breakers, and I want a lot of protection for this expensive equipment that I have. So doing it correctly is going to be important. Nick, just following up with you here. Hey, I hope your Thanksgiving went well. I was back in Michigan last week. I got our Timmy's. Attaboy. I appreciate that. Today is Timmy Day. Not a Timmy mug, but it's my Santa mug. But there is Tim Hortons in this cup. Of course, I have to make it myself, and so it's always slightly different than what you would get at a Tim Hortons. But I'm glad that you made it back to the motherland. And I hope you enjoyed your visit, and happy Thanksgiving. My Thanksgiving was well. It was very low key, just the four of us here at the house, and I made dinner, and my wife made up some sides, and we had a nice break. Kids were home all week, so we had a really long break. I'm glad that that you are doing all right. You can get cleaner audio, less or none ground loops. It's true. I'm glad that you're doing it right. You can get cleaner audio. Yes. Okay. So fair. Okay. Thank you. Yes. So one of the things about building your own space is you get to pick and choose how expensive you want to make it, which is, I'm finding that out very quickly. Well, what's great is you can ground all of the plugs independently, essentially. And yes, like Nick says, get much more cleaner audio from your equipment. Plus, if I'm going to have a quiet room, I'm going to have a place where I'm going to basically be recording things. I want all of those to be set up on their own circuits anyways. And there's not going to be a ton of power in there. There's going to be lights. There's going to be a few outlets. But then there's also going to be like a drive rack for what I'm hoping for is a 4x4 Turtle AV unit to basically allow people to plug in their instruments or their microphones and convert that to Dante right away, and then send that back to my X32 core, which will get a Dante card put into it, and Bob's your uncle. Then I can send those signals wherever I want. But mostly it's in an attempt to also set up a Dante network at my house, so I have those resources when I'm working for Keystone. I'm able to troubleshoot all that stuff, test things, all that. So I'm trying to get a few Dante devices. There's a lot of questions as to how it is I want to set up that recording. Not questions. There's just like a lot of ideas bouncing around in my brain. I'm going to have to decide on something. But in the meantime, yeah, we're running all of our own electrical work, which is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of work. But the way that I look at it is, look, if I'm going to do, I don't know however many receptacles I'm going to have, and how many circuits I'm going to have. I have it all written down on a chart. But basically, if I'm going to have 20 circuits or 25 circuits, I figure if I pull wire, and do 1 or 2 boxes a day or do 1 circuit a day, and I chip away at it for 2 weeks, it'd pretty much be done, right? So the goal is, now I learned something today, by the way, now that I say that out loud, I learned something that there are construction guys that are trying to do like sound isolation. They're trying to, they build homes and whatever. And one tip that he had was, if you're going to like penetrate a wall, they were talking about HVAC systems and whatever. If you're going to penetrate a wall with a wire or a pipe or something, keep the rule to 1 item per hole. All right. So when you're drilling a hole for a wire that's going to go into your external, like into your internal space, keep it limited to 1 wire or 1 whatever that you're, per actual opening, because it's you can almost guarantee you're going to get a seal when you seal it with silicone. And stopping vibration and sound transmission is part of this project. It's part of the reason why I'm spending so much time talking and thinking about this build, is mostly because I want to create this room, and it's going to be a 10 by 8 room, essentially, with, minus the actual walls that are, I'm going to be offsetting and doing decoupled walls and yada, yada, yada. And I'll try and actually shoot video of us doing those things, or at least the finished design. So as we develop this, one recommendation was, you can seal up a single hole as long as you don't have multiple things coming out of it. And so, for example, you can buy those putty pads, right, for the backs of your electrical outlets, for your anything that you're doing inside your studio. You can wrap these putty pads around it. Well, I'm going to have less than 10 receptacles in the room, probably going to have only like 5 or 6. I'm going to have a light switch, and then I'm going to have a couple of probably double or maybe singles, but that are Ethernet jacks that are pretty much just for Dante lines, and then I'm going to have electrical outlets. And so you can seal those up with those putty pads that you can get at Home Depot or Amazon, which are basically sound isolation, but they're, when you form them around the backs of those outlet boxes, it creates an airtight seal, but it's also basically clay, so it deadens any vibration that's coming through that opening. Same rule applies for when you're drilling holes for your wires. One suggestion, which may be completely redundant, but if you're drilling holes through your framing for your wire, go back and once you're wired up, then you go back and you fill those holes with silicone or with some flame retardant thing that will air seal those holes, so that sound transmission can't go between the studs, essentially. Like once they get into those pockets where that, if you're using rock wool or whatever it is you're using, once they get into that cavity where you have insulation, they can't pass between studs. There's no openings between studs to allow those vibrations to escape anywhere. You seal them up. So you could use something like fire rated, like caulking or something like that. That would be rated for that, but it would also deaden the sound transmission. I'm not really too sure how I got off on this rant, but here we are. So that's this project, which we can walk through here. I can load the video. This project is pretty neat. I mean, it's coming along, and it's slowly coming along. I really want the construction guys to get done with their portion, because that part is taking forever. But I could really do with the shingles being done and the flashing being done. They're building me a wall inside the office that will separate my office from the rest of the garage, and it's an isolated room. There's no door that goes from the garage to the office. I don't want that. Because it would need to be an airtight door, and so, cost. If I want to put it in later, I could. That would be even more expensive. But right now, I'm trying to eliminate like sound, and so I'm just trying to make it as isolated as I possibly can. So
that's pretty neat.
All right, so let's go onward, and we can watch this video. I can play it a couple of times here as the show goes along, but let's go ahead here. So this is the front of the garage. It's a humongous door that my truck nicely fits inside of, and so I'm using my Insta360 here gimbal to not make you too seasick. But here it is. Here's kind of the overall interior. That's my F-150 that's sitting there. This is that partially built wall. That is grass seed that's there. But this will be my office space here. And I'm just going to pause the video real quick. So this is a 24 by 10 space. And the recording studio is going to go on that far wall over there. And it will be 8 feet in. And then there'll be a door, and there'll be, that'll be a double wall over there. And then my office, like the recording space that you'll probably see me most often here on the show, will be on the other side of that wall, probably up against the wall that the truck backs up to, so on the opposite side. That's probably where I'm thinking of putting my computer, mostly because there's a giant window here, and I'll do some treatments to control the lighting. But this 6-foot window is here. But just the way that I'm probably going to end up putting a door. Let me play this. Okay, I'm going to put a door on the left-hand side next to that window, and it'll be a double door system. So the door will open up this way towards the window, okay? And then on the inside, it will open up towards the wall. And then as you walk into that space, that room will be sound isolated, climate controlled, all that sort of good thing. The whole thing will be climate controlled because we're going to do an air handler in here, but it will be hopefully fairly well soundproofed and a great little space for recording, and I can rent it out or do whatever I need to do here to let people use it. So that will be my office space, which I'm pretty excited about, and that's a better shot. It seems a little squat, but it's actually way more space than I have here. I mean, I'm tucked away in a corner that's probably, 6 by 6. So this is going to be a 24 by... No, sorry. This is going to be a 10 by, 18-foot space. So I'm going to have to figure out how to make it, what to do with the rest of the space, but we shall see. There is going to be plumbing in this area. I've got to run the plumbing pipe, and I've got to connect it. I've got to connect a lot of things up, but there will be running water in this space, and there'll be a drain, and so I'm probably going to end up having a little kitchenette, maybe just a sink and a small countertop, maybe a cupboard for coffee mugs, pots, and rinsing and washing. So there'll be that, and possibly a little like fridge so we can have waters. So when people come over, they can have some water. I don't know. So there's that. Then, so here I am just taking a second. That's the truck. Truck fits really well. There's space in front of the truck and behind the truck. I've got some storage stuff going on here. All this stuff on the right-hand side that you can't see because I'm in front of it. That is a ton of tools that I inherited from my dad, and they're gonna have a home. I'm gonna have a workbench on this that's gonna be about 3 feet out, and they're all gonna have a place to sit and live, and I can actually use those. And so that's something that we're doing inside the garage. Depending on how things are moving along and funding and all of that, money, then I may build that sooner or later. I don't know. It's kind of a side project, but it would be so fun to have a workbench installed and good to go, and all my tools having a home. So that's what all this stuff is, and it's construction stuff for the build. So all my electrical stuff is sitting in here and waiting to be done. Okay, here I take a look at the panel. So this is a 20 circuit, and you could do double pole breakers on these, which would give you 40 circuits if you wanted, but let's not go crazy. I think I'm currently up to about 16 or 18 circuits. So I'm almost full on this panel, but you might notice that there's a string coming out of this hole that's at the back of the panel. That's a pull string that goes around to the main panel. So when the wire shows up, and I was told it's shipped today, so 3 days, it might be here Monday, let's say sometime next week, then I can pull that cable from the main panel to this panel and wire it up pretty easy. And there's a 100 amp double pole breaker here, and there's another 100 amp pole breaker on the other side. So I read up on Tennessee electrical code, and that seems to be okay. That seems to be acceptable. So that's where the panel is. There is an electrical box here on the wall that you can see on the bottom right, and that's going to be just a few inches above my workbench. So it's going to sit up a little bit. My workbench is going to be like 3 feet or something like that tall, because you don't really want like 4 feet or 4.5 feet workbench, and then you put tools on top, and then you're trying to work on stuff, and it easily gets up. So you want it to be almost like waist height, or maybe elbow height. So if you put your elbows down, they're just right around your waist. So you want your workbench to be around waist height. So I'm going to go with 3 feet, I think, and then install the boxes about 6 inches above the workbench. So that's the height. There's going to be a box every other stud, and that seems excessive, but there's going to be 2 circuits here. So we'll run, I could do this actually now. I could run these 2 circuits for this workbench and then have power. As soon as I get the main cable, have power in this structure right away. So I might do that today or tomorrow. We will see. So there is the electrical panel. All right. This humongous garage door is crazy heavy. I went to Lowe's yesterday and found out that it's cheaper to buy the garage door opener that I want at Lowe's than it is on Amazon. So win-win for me. You can see my mower fits nicely in this corner. It may not sit forward like this. Let me back up here just a shade. So I have a Cub Cadet 54-inch deck mower. It may not sit here like in this orientation, but for the time being it needs to. So I have to step around it, step over it. There's some leftover stuff here in the garage from the build. But then I have these really nice attic stairs, and we go up the attic, go up into the attic, which is pretty sweet. I love having all this extra space, and now the question is, what do I do with this space? Do I finish it or do I leave it? This is going to be storage more than likely. I think I am going to leave this part unfinished. And then as you come up here to the top, I will finish this left-hand side. And by finish, I mean insulation, drywall, heating and cooling, just so that we can take all of the toy, like there is, you can't see here, but over here behind me, there's a stack of toys, tons of toys. And my kids would probably need a playroom. And I want to do this before my kids are no longer kids. So I need to do this in the next year. So drywall, ventilation, all that sort of good stuff. But then if I leave this portion open, so this is the right-hand side, if I leave this portion open, then I don't have to worry so much about condensation and stuff, because this will be all untreated. So on this side over here, this will have some insulation on it, around it, build the walls up, and then make a nice little playroom for them, and then have heating and cooling in there, so when they are in there, then they won't freeze, because it's cold out there right now. It's 35 degrees, so it's not freezing, it's just cold. And it's a really good space. Pretty excited about it. Here, I'll try and go back down the stairs. And yeah, it's a really, I'm so happy with the way that it worked out. It's way bigger than I thought it was going to be, which is awesome. But my truck fits in here nicely. And I just want to show you here the back. So I did this install. Again, no judgment here. I did this so here you can see the electrical runs out. Now, this pipe looks like it's leaning really far away from the house. It really isn't. It's only like an inch or two out. But this 2-inch conduit is the thing that I built. This is where the electrical is going to run to. And we have this little access panel. So that's pretty awesome. I got to get some straps on there, but again, it's a really big pipe, and it sits a couple inches away from the wall, so it's a little bit harder to get to find those. So I got to look around. This is down the back. This will be the entrance to my office when it's all said and done. I will paint this structure as well, but all in good time. The reason why I'm showing you this here is this is where I'm going to end up putting the heating and cooling unit. So I'm going to end up having to pour some concrete, putting the heating and cooling unit back here that can do 3 zones. And then we're going to do heating and cooling inside the office, inside the little recording booth, and then inside that playroom that's upstairs. So 3 separate units to handle the temperature, and then they will all run out here to a single unit that will have 3 outlets on it. So that is the only reason why I want to show you that back. And that's it so far. I mean, that's the entire build. It's coming along. It's really nice. I'm super excited about moving along here. And I just need to chip away at it. Like, I'm not getting overwhelmed necessarily with how much that needs to be done, because as you saw, a lot needs to be done. But we're progressing. Hey, increased mass can help reduce sound as well. In your recording room, you might be able to do double the drywall too, because drywall is cheap. So yes, so I will do double 3/8 drywall. The jury is out on green glue. When we were building the booth back in Rochester, Nick, we used some green glue on that one, mostly to reduce creaks, over time as you walk around. But right now, the company that originally made green glue and the original scientist that did all that, or engineer that did all that, they got bought out or sold, I don't know. And they haven't redone their stats recently, and so I'm not actually interested in doing green glue, but I will do 1.5 inches of drywall, because mass is basically the big key. And if you can do mass on both sides of your double wall and create that 1-inch gap between them, then the vibrations basically go through the first 1.5 inches of drywall, and then go into the insulation, and then into the 1-inch air gap, and then into the insulation again on the other side, and then into the mass on the external wall. Nothing's going to get out or in. No, I mean, I won't say nothing. We do have a quarry up the road from us, and it does rattle the house every now and then. But what I mean is the putting that much between us and the outside walls, whether it's my office or the garage or the external wall, putting that much between them, I think, is the ultimate cost-effective way to control vibrations, which that's what sound is. So I'm not going to do the whole office. I'm not going to soundproof the whole office. I might depending on what the price is, I might do 3/8 in the office, 2 sheets of 3/8 and insulation, but not necessarily do a double wall. But for the recording studio, for the actual recording space, I'm going to do a double wall in there with 2 doorways and very limited wall penetrations. Probably do lighting that comes in through a sealed box, and then either do like a hanging cloud type of thing that has an LED strip for just ambient lighting or whatever. And then you could just do, plug in regular lamps and things like that to do accent lighting. But recording studios, you don't need it to be bright like the sun. Now, the other thing about this is, the other thing that I'm thinking about using this space for is green screening. And I hate green screening. And so have found a solution, which I've talked about here on the show before, but I hate green screening. The way I think you do it is you use a live background. So you go and you record a live background. The trick is lighting. With green screening done properly, the trick is doing lighting properly. And so I'm going to need enough space in this room to light a subject properly in order to do this. But I think, it's going to end up being like 7 by 9 at the end of the day. And so what is that? 60. What is 7 by 9? Oh my gosh. I was great at my 9 times tables. Apparently, though, when I hit 40, after like drywall and all that stuff, usable is 63 square feet. So that's not too bad. I mean, that's not too shabby to have 63 usable square feet of sound space, and I think that it's easy enough to easy. I think it will be reasonable enough to try and control the vibrations in a space that size, but not be limiting. It's not a full-on, like I can't have a choir in there. I can't have a full band in there. But for what it is that we do, and for the video side of things, what it is that I do, for the video side of things that we do at Safe Harbor, and then for the audio recording friends that I have, I think it's going to be more than sufficient. So I'm sure that there will be things that I have clearly overlooked, as you do when you build things, and wouldn't it have been better if I had done it this way? But I'm not rushing this build. I would like it to be done in the next year and a half. That's the goal, is by 2027 I want to be done, totally done. I want to be working out of the office by next year, by next summer, hopefully. That means a lot of stuff has to happen between now and then. And a lot of stuff has to happen between now and then. So the key is to just start chipping away at the electrical. And that's the next thing. Once I get lights and I get power over there, then I could install lighting. I can install all the receptacles. I can start running all the low voltage stuff. But in addition to that, I need like a garage door opener, which needs power, and a few other things just to kind of get started. And then once your electrical's done, then you start looking at insulation. You start closing up walls. These are 12-foot ceilings, by the way. And so if I could jump back to where we're standing in the office. This is a good spot to look at it. So here, so here, these are 12-foot ceilings. So it's going to feel a lot taller. It's going to be like this room. It's going to feel a lot taller than your average, general office space that you would find in a garage. But also then I'm not going to do 12 feet when it comes to the recording space. I might do like 10, just to give me some space above the studio to do extra insulation and sound isolation, all that sort of good stuff. And it's a concrete slab, so we don't really have to do too much with the floor. I mean, there's not really too much you can do, but concrete is probably one of the better options. So yeah, slowly trying to figure it out, think it through. The real annoying thing is I can only work till about 4 o'clock because that's when the sun goes down. And there's no lights out there because there's no electrical. So usable light is basically until middle of the afternoon, and then it starts getting darker and darker and darker. Thankfully, the garage door is a 12 by 10, which means that if I open that thing, there's plenty of sunlight that comes through. But what I will probably do is start running wires for lights, and I'm going to do 2 switches for the lights in the garage. One that's going to be the general lighting that's over the truck, and then another one that's going to be the specific lighting that's going to be over the workbench that's here on the you're looking at it here on the left-hand side. So workbench lighting, and then I'm going to have general lighting for probably just 4 regular schmegular lights that are, I might put high-powered bulbs in them, like maybe 200, 300 watt equivalents. But once I get lights on the light switch, then we're good to go. So, that's next. That's next. I need to look up the circuit for the light switch. So can I run, for example, I just want basically one circuit for my lights. Can I run power to that box and then run power to both of the light switches independently from that feeder line, and then Yeah, I'll have to Google this, and whatever the Tennessee code is. Let's just find out. Wiring. Actually, let's do this instead. Wiring double light switches in single box. How to wire 2 light switches off of a power supply. It's common to power 2 or more light switches from a single power supply, and the switches can be in the same electrical box or different parts of the house. The power source is typically the building's main electrical panel. Yada, yada, yada. Switches. Here we go. Switches in the same box. As the diagram at Electrical 101 shows, let's pull that up so that I can show you that. Okay, cool. Here it is. All right, so you guys can follow along. Here, as the diagram at Electrical 101 shows, the line cable is all that you need to supply the power of the pair of the switches to the single electrical box. After making sure that the power is off, no problem there because I have no power in the building, you strip back the 2 wires and the 2 connection cables, multiple light switch wiring diagram, and make pigtails of 6 inches each of black wire salvaged from spare pieces of cable. You can make pigtails by twisting these 3 wires together, screwing them in the web. Okay. So here we go. So we've got main line that goes to the. This is not the right. Ooh, yuck! That looks. 3-way switch. 2 switch box wiring diagram. So everything comes in. This is terrible. But let's look at this logically. Okay, so we have a line that comes in. This is your power, and it goes to the light switch, which then feeds the power to the light, and then the ground comes back. I'm sorry, the neutral comes back and gets tied together, and then all of the grounds are. Oh, light switches don't have grounds, so they're not even being used. They're just tied together, I assume. Maybe. Then your second line comes out of the power, that same power, and goes to the other box or the same box and powers the same setup. So that's easy peasy. And then out of this box, you send power to the next light and to the next light, and you tie all of your grounds or your neutrals together until you get to the last one. And then the neutral gets tied on to the last one, so that when you flip the switch, positive goes through all the lights, and then at the last one, it comes back negative all the way back to the board. So that's easy peasy. Makes total logical sense in my brain, and that's the way that I would want. Now, the next question I have, sorry, I'm ignoring you guys in the chat if you're saying anything right at this second. Yes, but there might be rules for 3-ways, as you have 2 points of entry. So I'm not going to have a 3-way switch because the wall that is between my office and the garage is a solid wall, no door. So there's an entry at the back, but it goes into my office only. Generally, you can use 2 circuits in one box without it being deviced. It varies on jurisdiction, yeah. Tennessee, Hickman County is very relaxed, but I do want to do it to code just so I don't have a fire. That's the big thing. But they are very relaxed. So I would just run then a wire then up to my lights that are above my truck and go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the question I have is, do I have to... Well, the next question I guess I have is, do I staple them to the side of the trusses, the joist? Do I do it underneath? Where do I affix that wire? So I'll look for some pictures on that. All right, so next. So back here. How to... No. Yeah. Let's just ask AI this one. What is Tennessee wiring code? Tennessee wiring code. I want to connect 4 lights in my garage to a single switch. How do I run the wire across the ceiling through the trusses? Secured to the bottom, to the top of the truss beams. Okay, let's see what. Typically, the residential garage in Tennessee and most of the U.S., the wiring method depends on whether the garage ceiling is exposed with open joists and trusses with no drywall or finished. Since you're asking about running wire across the ceiling and mentioning trusses, I'm assuming that you have exposed trusses and joist ceilings. Very common in garages. Here's the correct way to do it. Acceptable method, running boards, a guard strip. By far the most common, and inspectors approve this method in garages. Run a 1x4 or a 1x6 board along the bottom edge of the truss joists, wherever the cable will be exposed, and subject to physical damage below 7 feet or within 6 feet of attic access. Staple the cable to the running board. I need to see a picture of this. Drilling through the truss bottom cords. Allowed, but with restrictions. Yeah, I don't really want to compromise the trusses because they're going to have some weight on them. You may drill holes through the bottom cord of the manufactured truss only if the truss manufacturer's instructions or a Tennessee licensed engineer approves it. Most trusses plates say do not cut or drill cord members unless specified. Of one. Oh, that's cool. Oh. Oh, I see. All right, so here we go. They just run a board across and then staple them to the board. This looks like there's 2 strips, like a guard, but then this shows just like a cable installed on the running board. So cables installed through board holes, cables installed parallel to the framing members. So you can nail them to the framing members this way, but then when you need to go across, you need to run them across a board. Is that what I'm hearing or reading? Ooh, look how pretty that looks. That's cool. Ooh, good job. And then this, stapled to boards, this. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see if this website shows me of anything of use. Here we go. See, these go through the floor joists. Meh, that's not helpful. Okay, well. Yikes. A lot of these are like disasters. Let me look up some photos of like ceiling running boards. Doesn't really show anything. Nobody's taken pictures of this to actually help me understand what it looks like, so that's not helpful. When in doubt, you should always ask a licensed electrician, right? Who do I know that's a licensed electrician in Tennessee? All right. Quick practical layout for 4 light switch with an exposed ceiling. 14.2 from the panel to the switch box, then 14.2 or 14.3 from switch, first light, then daisy chain 14.2 between 4 lights. Power stays hot after the switch. Come out of the wall of the switch location, staple up the wall and then along a running board nailed to the bottom. Trust that when you get above 7 feet away from sidewalks and attic access, you can Drill centered holes through trusses, bottom cord if allowed, or keep the running board. Drop down to each light location with cables stapled within 12 inches. I definitely need to look at examples of that. It's in. I don't know why. Why my brain is drawing a blank on, what it typically looks like. A lot of these are finished running light in ceiling, unfinished. A lot of the photos that they're providing are. Oh, that's an interesting idea. He just runs it from the wall over. Oh, and there's a running board that he's got up there. I know you can't see that one yet, but give me a second here. I'm just looking. Okay, well, this guy is kind of like what I'm looking for. So, we can look at this here. Receptacle requirements, lighting requirements. Light switch in a vehicle bay, they can't be higher than 5.5 feet off the floor. These receptacles must be powered by a 20 amp circuit. You can have more wait, what? One receptacle for each vehicle bay. Oh, that's for power. Must have lighting installed. The lights cannot be fed by 20 amp garage receptacle unless you have a single car garage. Okay. Protect your wiring. Maintain 1.25 inch depth. Keep cable at least one from any edge of the wood studs. Yeah, that's to protect from nails. Use a nail plate if you can't maintain. Use care with finish walls. Support your cables. Well, that wasn't very helpful. Although the guy, you can see what he's done here. He's just stapled the wires up to the box and then just daisied them around. Okay. Well, anyway, this is an interesting thought experiment. I really need to get lights going in the garage. That's like number one, because then I can actually work out there. It would also be great to have electrical out there. So again, so I could work. So if we could get the power going, that would be great. I will have to. Yeah, you can't run two circuits to one box. Correct. No, I need two light switches. Whether or not I may need to use a single gang double light switch, because the spot where the light switch needs to go is just too small to take a dual gang box, which I would love to put in there. I've got a couple of options, and I've tried a couple of things. I can't get a hammer in there to nail it in. I've got another one that might like bite the stud, but I can't bend it to, like, I can't turn it in because, again, the studs between the garage door and the pedestrian door are just too tight. So I may just need to do a single gang but two light switch option. So dual light switch. Whoops. Single gang or one gang. Yeah. So something like these would be probably just fine. Oh, sorry, the chat's up there. So yeah, something like this would be fine, where you provide power to it, and then you just run separate circuits to. It's a pretty basic set. Oh, it even has a ground. And there's also this one, which is fine as well. A little bit cheaper, but same idea. I like this other one just because it looks cleaner, But this makes more sense for a garage. Like these toggle switches, I think you want to physically click. You want to click them over, right? So that makes probably a little bit more sense, a little bit cheaper. I do have a Z-Wave house, and so might be nice to have these lights on a Z-Wave switch, but again, I'm going to need a dual box to do that, and I'm not too sure how to hammer that box into place. So who knows? Who knows? All right, let me put this here. Hey man, we should catch up after post stream. Yeah, for sure. Always a pleasure to hang out with you. It goes on. Alrighty. Just look here. Okay, so that's where we're at with the garage. I'm waiting to hear back from my construction guy on the roof, and so I was really hoping that would be done this week. With, let me look at the weather, because I think he said, well, we got to put it up when it hasn't rained for a day or so, and it's gearing up to maybe rain or snow this afternoon, depending on how cold it is outside. So another reason I want to get the electrical on in this space is because, yeah, I need some heat out there. I need some light out there. I need some electrical out there so I could finish this all up. So trying to get it all done. Trying to make headway on it. And I should go out and wire up two circuits for the workbench, and then I have power on that wall, and that would be helpful. But that's next. All right, guys, it's 11 o'clock, so we have spent the hour. Hopefully, thank you so much for coming along for the ride. I got to get Sunday together, and so that's the next thing. I think I have most of the videos that I need, minus one or two. But I'm going to try and put most of it in order and get Sunday lined up today. I don't like leaving it till Friday, because that's the worst thing about being in charge of the order of worship, is getting everybody to do the things they need to do, like preachers submitting slides and all that stuff. Well, we have a standard now where I tell people I need it by Tuesday night, because I'm not leaving this till the last minute. So I have most everything. There are a couple people I forgot to mention this to, and so I'm kind of waiting to hear back from them. Hopefully I will see those things come through here today. If not, we'll have to put somebody in to pinch hit, and we will have them participate another week. But I don't leave it till I don't work on Saturdays, because I work Sunday morning. So I don't work on Saturdays. So I try and get everything done for the service on Thursdays, and then I upload and double check and do everything on Friday, make sure everything's ready to go. Saturday I spend time with my family, and then Sunday we are live. So onward and upward. Thank you so much for coming along, though. I really appreciate you guys checking in with me. Nick, great to see you in the chat, and Randy over at the Keystone Network's YouTube page. Thank you so much for coming along. I really appreciate it. Pretty excited about this garage. I want it to come together, and I'm really looking forward to having a space that I'm building myself, and that will be very useful in the years to come. So stick along for the journey, and we'll be back next week for another round. Take care of yourselves out there. Take care of each other, and we will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.